I'm back to talk more about variables. It's an exciting thing that we've done so far, right? This circle moves. It's being drawn according to the built-in system variable mouse x and mouse y. But this really only scratches the surface of variables themselves. A goal here that I'm going to get to, it's going to take quite a bit, we have a whole other topic called conditionals to get there, is to have this ball, this circle, move on its own. The reason why I said ball is a sort of classic beginning example is a bouncing ball, right? What if I want it to move on its own and when it hits the edge, it bounces off? So we'll get there, but we're not even at the point yet where it can move on its own. How do I have it move on its own? I need its x location to be something that varies according to some algorithm. Start here, then go here, then go here, then go here. The current algorithm is go wherever the mouse is. How do I do that? To realize this vision, I need to be able to create my own variables. Right now, there is a variable in draw, mouse x. But that variable will always be the mouse location. To create my own variable, there are 3 steps. The first thing that I need to do is declare a variable. In truth, JavaScript is such a friendly little language. It lets you skip steps if you want. But I think it's good practice to do that variable declaration. And I do that with the keyword let. In addition to the keyword let, I need to name the variable. The name can be anything I want. I can make up anything. I can call it unicorn or rainbow or kitten or soft furry puppy variable 12. Whatever I want it to be, I can make that up. I'm going to try to pick a name that makes sense. I will call this circle x. I should note that there are certain restrictions to variable names. I can't start with a number. I can't have spaces in it. But for the most part, you'll figure that out just through trial and error. But it is good practice to name your variables with a lowercase letter. And if you're joining multiple words, like happy puppy, I might say happy and then capitalize the P. So I'm doing circle X with a capital X here. Again, these are just conventions. They aren't hard and fast rules, but they will help you keep your code organized if you follow these conventions. I also need to put a semicolon here. I should also mention that because this is JavaScript, there's always more than one way to do something, which is kind of makes things confusing and a little frustrating for me as a teacher. But this is the current sort of base way that I like to declare a variable with the keyword let. In a moment, you'll sort of see why the word let is used. But in olden times in JavaScript, the keyword var was used. Actually makes a little bit more sense, var for variable. And there's also a reason why you sometimes might want to say instead const, const or constant. But I'm not going to worry about this right now. I have a whole separate video about the difference between let and var, and maybe I'll get to that later. But I just want to point that out because you might see those in examples you're looking at. Phew! So that was declare. We're good with declare. The next thing I need to do is initialize. I want to have this variable, circle x. I want it to store a value for me, a number, the x location of the circle. I need to give it something to start with. So in setup, when the program begins, I'm going to give it an initial value. I'm initializing the circle x variable with the value 100. There's also something really notable about this. Every line of code that I've written so far in these tutorials, it just is function parentheses arguments, function parentheses arguments. This is a different kind of line of code. Now we have something called an assignment operation. This is very critical. We're going to use assignment operations a lot. It's assigning the value 100 to the variable circle x. Please store 100 in the variable circle x. This leads me to think of how you can think of a variable. It's almost like it's a bucket and you're like, I put the number 100 in it. Is it a box of chocolates? No. It's like a Post-it note, right? I want to keep track of circle x. I'm going to put this Post-it note on the wall over here. I'm going to write 100 on it. If ever that value changes for circle x, I'll cross it out and write a different number on it. There's lots, I think, of sort of metaphors that you could come up with to what a variable is. It's a named it's a named entity that's storing a reference to some data, some information, in this case just a number. I've declared and I've initialized. Now it's time to use. I mean, do I need to use the variable? If I declare a variable in the forest and initialize it but never use it, does it make a sound? I think I've said that in previous videos and I'm just regurgitating it. But it's a kind of an interesting philosophical question, but I think the whole point here is we declare the variable, we initialize it, of course we want to use it. And so instead of mouse x, a built-in system variable, I now want to use my own variable. So those are all the pieces. Declare with let your own variable name, initialize with a value, in this case a number, and then use that variable somewhere where you would ordinarily just write the literal value itself. In this case, the circle X position. I'm going to now add the code that I mapped out over here on the whiteboard to this sketch. Now I've left mouse Y in there because I can use multiple variables, but just to make things easier to follow right now, let me take out mouse Y and just put it in the middle. So now the circle's not going to move with the mouse. No mouse X and mouse Y. Instead, the circle is where? At location pixel, horizontal pixel 100. If I change this to 150, it's going to move over. To 200, it's going to move over. To 0, it's going to move back. Whatever value I give it, and notice it's only moving because the sketch is restarting, right? So this is just the initial value of circle X, which leads me to fill in a little gap here of a couple things. One is, even though I have described to you declaration, let circle X, and initialization, circle X equals 100 as two separate steps, in most cases, practically speaking, those can be done as one step. It can be combined. And I could just say, let circle X equal 100 and take this out of setup. This, by the way, is why the word let is used. I want to declare and initialize a variable. I want to let it be 100. It's very nice, actually. Please, I'm going to let you be 100. It's not so like commanding of it. Let circle X equal 100. There are some scenarios, and they'll come up where you have to do the initialization and setup. It has to do with what's available to P5 and not. Depending on whether you're outside setup or inside setup. Hopefully this will become more clear as I get through future examples. But I should note that me saying let circle X outside of setup is very important. This is what's known as a global variable. It is available to the entire code, all of the events, the setup function and the draw function. Circle X can be used anywhere. If I were to just put let circle X equal 100 in setup, I'm getting an error. That error is uncaught reference error, circle X is not defined. It is defined. I defined it there in setup. But if I define a variable, if I declare a variable in setup with let, I can only use it in setup. So I want this to be a global variable. This will also be something that will be addressed in future videos. And for now, I might just say, put all your variables at the top. Make them all global. I imagine you might be a little bit frustrated watching these videos. I'm talking and talking and talking, and still the circle just stays right there in one spot. After all this, it's not even moving. And even so, like just moving a little bit. I mean, I think this is really exciting stuff, but I can see how it's a slow process here. We've got to like build up to more dynamic examples. How do I get it to move? Well, I was able to change its location by giving it a different initial value than restarting the sketch, and a different initial value, and then restarting the sketch. Instead, what I want to do is I want to keep giving it a new value inside of draw. And if I were just to speak this command in English or in pseudocode, I might say increment circle X by 1 pixel. Every time through draw, remember draw is looping, set circle X to itself plus 1. Go to the next pixel. And in fact, I can do that with a singular statement. Circle X equals circle X plus 1, and off it goes. Now this might look like something weird, like what? Circle X does not equal circle X plus 1. That's wrong, but that's not what this is. This is an assignment operation. The right-hand side is evaluated, so if circle X is 100, 100 plus 1 is 101, and then that value is then stored in circle X. Then draw loops and comes back to it again. 101 becomes 102 and stored back in circle X, and so on and so forth. If I change this to 5, it's going to move faster. 5 pixels at a time. Goodbye, circle. It's never coming back. So again, how did we get it to come back? That's going to involve a conditional statement coming in a future video. But for now, this is the idea. I want to create variables, initialize them, and manipulate them as the program runs. Maybe I'm going to add back function mouse pressed. Now notice before I put mouse pressed below draw, and now I put it above, the order of these functions actually doesn't matter as long as they are self-contained blocks of code. But here I could say, let's reset circle X back to 0. So every time I click the mouse, the circle starts back at 0. This is me creating some data, manipulating it as the program runs, changing its value according to different events. Interactivity right here. So what's next for you? I would say as an exercise, before I move on to whatever's coming next, I'm not actually entirely sure. I mean, I know what's coming in the long term, but in the very short term, let's look at the next video. You'll see. Try to make more variables. What if you make a variable for the circle's Y position, for its color, for the background, and you manipulate those? Can you use the size? Can you have the circle grow, and every time you click the mouse, have it start back over growing? Oh, there's so many things you could try. Maybe have 3 or 4 variables. And can you practice declaring, initializing, and using them all? What kind of animations can you make? I can't wait to see. Please share them with me, and I will see you as I move forward and eventually get that circle to come back to us. Come back, circle.